All right, so let's get right to what happened in the trial today, which sounds like was a lot of fun. Pecker gave a lot of interesting testimony. So let's just get right to it. As Donald Trump was running for president in 2016, his old friend at the National Enquirer was scooping up potentially damaging stories about the candidate and paying out tens of thousands of dollars to keep them from the public eye. This is what we found out yesterday. But when it came to the seamy claims by porn performer Stormy Daniels, David Pecker said he put his foot down. And I'm sure you guys can figure out the reason why. Because it checks out. Alright. I am not paying for this story, he told jurors Thursday at Trump's hush money trial, recounting his version of a conversation with Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, about the catch and kill scheme that prosecutors allege amounted to interference in the race. Pecker was already $180,000 in the hole on other Trump-related stories by the time Daniels came along. I didn't want to be involved in this from the beginning. Now, my problem with him saying that is, was it yesterday or his first day of testimony? He said he volunteered to do this, and now he's saying he didn't want to be involved in this from the beginning? Okay, which one is it? But for those who can't read between the lines, maybe they'll get to it, but for those who can't read between the lines, he's basically saying he wasn't getting paid. Trump wasn't actually paying him, even though he said he would. And that's basically the MO of Trump, regardless of what it is. So that checks out. Pecker's testimony was a critical building block for the prosecution's theory that their partnership was a way to illegally influence the 2016 presidential election. The Manhattan District Attorney is seeking to elevate the gravity of the history-making first trial of a former American president and the first of 4 criminal cases against Trump to reach a jury. But the hush money trial was just one of the consequential legal matters facing the Republican presidential candidate on Thursday. The U.S. Supreme Court also heard arguments over whether Trump should be immune from prosecution in a federal case over his efforts to reverse his 2020 election loss to Joe Biden. The High Court justices appeared likely to reject his immunity claim, though it seemed possible Trump could benefit from a lengthy trial delay, in this case, possibly beyond November's election. Exactly, because we don't know when they're going to hand down their verdict. So they can still hand down their verdict that he does not have immunity, but because it's handed down so late, the trial would not start until too close to the election, that if Trump were to, say, get elected, which is a scary possibility, but it can happen, he could just make that case go away. So yeah, fun times. Trump's many legal problems were colliding this week. The hush money case involved a looming decision on whether he violated a gag order, which he did, and should be held in contempt, which he should be. His former lawyers and associates were indicted in a 2020 election-related scheme in Arizona, which is the false electors scheme. And a New York judge rejected a request for a new trial in a defamation case that found Trump liable for $83.3 million in damages, which is the E. Jean Carroll case. I'm not sure if it's the first one or the second one or both. But anyway. Now, the only thing I'll say about the Arizona case is, why aren't we doing this in Wisconsin? Seriously, Josh Kaul, what are you doing? Bring it up. I mean, we know that there was a false elector scheme. We probably know who the false electors were, and we know Ron Johnson was involved. For the love of God, come on. But the former president has a long history of emerging unscathed from sticky situations, if not becoming even more popular, which is just inexplicable. Why is he becoming more popular for being a scumbag? Are there that many scumbags in this country that they look at Donald Trump and say, I aspire to be that good. I aspire to be able to be a scumbag, but yet not get in trouble for my scumbaggery. Have no consequences for it. I do not know why he's becoming more popular for this. It was an unusual confluence politically, too, as Trump started the day campaigning for the 2024 at a Manhattan construction site before heading to a court in the trial related to 2016 presidential race, while the Supreme Court was hearing 2020 election-related issues. Oh, God, my head hurts. The High Court's decision will have lasting implications for future presidents because the justices were seeking to answer the never-before-asked question of whether and to what extent does a former president enjoy immunity from prosecution for conduct during his time in office. Now, the Supreme Court needs to be careful here. Even if they want to help Trump, who is currently in the White House? Biden. And the Republicans are desperately trying to show that he's a criminal. And if the Supreme Court says that nothing that Trump did was illegal because he's the current president, nothing by definition he does is illegal, then it also stands to reason that it would extend to Biden. So the Republicans might get their precious god, Trump, out of any legal hot water, but they're just cutting off their ability to go after Biden. So this is a tricky one. Trump has asked to skip his New York criminal proceedings for the day so he could sit in on the Supreme Court's special session, but that request was denied by Judge Juan Merchan, who is overseeing Trump's trial on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in connection with the hush money payments, which involved buying the rights to someone's story but never publishing it. I think the Supreme Court has a very important argument before it today, Trump said outside the courtroom. I should be there. What, to threaten the judges that you put on the court that they should do what you want? Seriously, why do you have to be there? Instead, he sat at the defense table at a Manhattan courtroom with his lawyers, listening intently to Pecker testify how he and his publication parlayed rumor mongering into splashy stories that smeared Trump's opponents and, just as crucially, leveraged his connections to suppress unflattering coverage. I've also seen that they're using this as they're saying that this incident of Pecker helping Trump is what made the National Enquirer less reliable. I'm sorry, were they ever reliable? I'm not aware of that. All right. Trump has maintained he is not guilty of any of the charges. In New York, he says the stories that were bought and squelched were false. So why squelch them? I mean, why buy and squelch stories if they're false? Because you can always, you're Donald Trump. You're famous. You can easily use your stardom to say this is horseshit. this isn't true. You do not need to buy stories from people who think that they're going to get their stories out if they're not true. This is not innocent person behavior. There is no case here. There is just a political witch hunt. I'm so sick of that term, he said before court in brief comments to reporters. As Pecker testified in a calm, cooperative tone about risque tales and secret dealings, the atmosphere in the utilitarian 1940s courtroom was one of quiet attentiveness. Maybe that's why it's freezing in the courtroom. Did they have heat in the 40s? Legit question. 2 Secret Service agents were stationed in the first row of the courtroom gallery, directly behind Trump. 10 court officers stood around the room. Jurors intently listened, and some took notes. Pecker recalled that the publication bought a sordid tale from a New York City doorman and purchased accusations of an extramarital affair with former Playboy model Karen McDougal to prevent the claims from getting out. There was some talk of reimbursement from Trump's orbit, but Pecker was ultimately never paid. Oh, I'm just shocked. A man who's got a reputation of not paying his employees and other contractors didn't pay Pecker? Shocking. He would never do that to a friend. The breaking point for Pecker came with Daniels, who was eventually paid by Cohen to keep quiet over her claim of a 2006 sexual encounter with Trump. The ex-president denies it happened. Pecker recalled to the jury that he was dining with his wife the night after the public learned of the infamous 2005 Access Hollywood tape in which Trump discussed grabbing women sexually without permission, when then-editor Dylan Howard called with an urgent matter. Howard said he heard from Daniels' representatives that she was trying to sell her story and that the tabloid could acquire it for $120,000, Pecker told jurors. Pecker was tapped out, he told Cohen as much. At the same time, Pecker advised that someone, just not him, should do something to prevent the story from going public. I said to Michael, my suggestion to you is that you should buy the story and you should take it off the market, because if you don't and it gets out, I believe the boss will be very angry with you. Cohen followed his advice. This actually does, if the defense was actually smart, they could point out, see, Trump didn't know that it was for this because Pecker told Cohen to do this so the boss doesn't get angry. But it doesn't say angry about what or something. Anyway, it sounded better in my head. Anyway, Pecker testified that Trump later invited him into a White House dinner in July 2017 to thank him for helping the campaign. The ex-publisher said Trump encouraged him to bring anyone he wanted, recounting that the then-president told him, "It's your dinner." Pecker said that he and Howard, as well as some of his other business associates, posted for photos with Trump in the Oval Office. Pecker said others at the dinner included Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and press advisor Sean Spicer. At one point during the evening, Pecker said Trump asked him for an update on Karen McDougal. "How's Karen doing?" he recalled, Trump saying as they walked past the Rose Garden from the Oval Office to the dining room. "I said she's doing well. She's quiet. Everything's going good," Pecker testified. But months later, in March 2018, the president became furious when McDougal gave an interview to CNN's Anderson Cooper, Pecker testified. "I thought you had, and we had an agreement with Karen McDougal that she can't give any interviews or be on any TV channels," Trump told Pecker by phone, the former National Enquirer publisher said. He said he explained to the then president that the agreement had been changed to allow her to speak to the press after a November 26, 2016 Wall Street Journal article about the tabloid's $150,000 payout to McDougal. Mr. Trump got very aggravated when he heard that I amended it, and he couldn't understand why, Pecker told jurors. Because he was trying to save his own ass? Prosecutors finished their questioning Thursday, and Trump defense attorney Emil Bova opened his cross-examinations by grilling Pecker on his recollection of specific dates and meetings, an apparent effort to underscore the difficulty of recalling details relevant to the years-old allegations. Oh, that's true. Memories do fade. In other developments, prosecutors argued Trump again violated a gag order, all while waiting to hear whether he would be held in contempt on other suspected violations. Merchan has barred the GOP leader from making public statements about witnesses, jurors, and others connected to the case. He set a hearing for Wednesday on the new claims. This is never going to end because Trump is never going to shut up. Trump was dismissive about the looming decision. When asked by reporters if he would pay fines if ordered, he replied, "Oh, I have no idea." He then said, "They've taken my constitutional right away with a gag order." Yes, they've taken away your constitutional right because you know, it's just amazing. This is a man who is so quick to judge other people, and if you're a criminal, you can be manhandled, you can be treated horribly, but somehow he's being charged with a crime, and suddenly, oh, but I'm innocent, they're being so mean to me. They're doing their damn job. And if they followed your ideas of how criminals should be treated, you would be in a much worse situation. But we all know that the only reason you think this is different is because it's you, and those criminals you were talking about happen to be black. Ah! A conviction by the jury would not preclude Trump from becoming president again, which is such a shame. But because it is a state case, he would not be able to pardon himself if found guilty. At least something. The charge is punishable by up to 4 years in prison, though it's not clear if the judge would seek to put him behind bars. So that is all I have on this article. So, I don't believe I have anything else to add, just that I saw an article about how this is what tanked the National Enquirer, and like I said, I don't recall the National Enquirer ever being legit, a legit news source. I always thought of it as, the kind of thing that they, put out about these crazy legends or just crazy stories, outlandish stories. So I don't know. Anyway, that's enough rambling from me. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.